This is Jennifer from Summa Counseling, and today we are going to talk about the Why College essay. This is a statement that a lot of students dread responding to because they feel like it's very hard to formulate a unique answer that helps them stand out from the millions of other students that are also applying to this particular college. So, the focus of our talk today will be to coach you in being able to stand out and write a very strong statement. Now, it boils down to two main factors. The first is to reveal specific, colorful details about yourself. So, even though this is a why college prompt, I always tell students not to forget that it is still a college admissions essay that ultimately you're drafting. So many of the lessons we learned from how to write a strong personal statement will still apply. In other words, you should make sure that you are showing as much as possible, giving concrete examples, telling personal anecdotes that help the admissions reader feel like they're getting to know you better as a person. Now, the second factor, of course, is that you also want to demonstrate that you very thoroughly researched this particular college and know a lot about it. And this is what helps you answer ultimately the prompt of why you want to go to this particular school. So, what should be the substance of a why college essay? Now, as your handout outlines, there's mainly two questions you always want to keep in mind. The first, which we label under A, is what you have to offer the college. This means your own experiences, background, your unique talents and skills and qualities. And then the second question, B, is what the college has to offer you. And this has to do with their programs, their majors, their student organizations, their professors. So let's get even more specific. For example, under the umbrella of academics, what you want to ask yourself is, what are your academic passions? Are there any special projects that you've worked on in high school that were very memorable for you, and why? What were some of your favorite classes? And then B, how do you relate all that personal information to what the college has to offer? And academically, that would be what professors do they have that you would want to study under and why? What majors do they offer that you'd be interested in pursuing? And what classes would you want to take at this particular college? And you'll see that I noted in parentheses, please don't write Psychology 101 or Econ 101. And the point is that if you remain too general, you still won't stand out among all the other why college essays that the admissions officer receives. Even better than economics or finance would be I want to study the world food economy. And just in case you don't know, that has to do with the supply of food on a global scale, so production, and the demand for food on a global scale. And a lot of times these courses will try to study the potential shortage of food where the demand far exceeds supply at some point in the future or in certain parts of the world. Other examples of very specific economics classes would be energy and environment, understanding the welfare system, microcosm of Silicon Valley and Wall Street. So the more specific and colorful the title of a class, the more it will help you stand out among other students. And obviously, you will have to back that up with your own interests and experiences and substantiate why these particular courses would be such a good fit for you. Now, next, we have the umbrella of student activities or groups. So, A, what have been your extracurricular passions, your most meaningful activity, or a community service project you've been committed to, or a way that you've demonstrated exemplary leadership? And then B, how can you link that information to what the college has to offer? So, what kind of student clubs or organizations would you want to join at this particular college and why? What unique background or qualities would you bring to these organizations? And finally, if a certain club doesn't exist, why would you be the best candidate to start it? And why do you think the students at this particular college would benefit from having this new club or organization? Next, under the umbrella of research or internships, you could talk about A, what have you researched in the past? Or what kind of summer internships have you been involved in? And then B, how might that relate to a current research opportunity or internship that's available at this particular college? Finally, there's an umbrella of study abroad or international programs. And A, you can ask yourself, what foreign language skills, cultural experiences, or international career goals do you have that B might make you an ideal candidate for this study abroad or international program at this particular school? Now, obviously, we did not discuss the full spectrum of everything that you can touch upon, but the idea is the same, is that you can really pick any aspect to write about as long as you are honing in on A, your personal strengths, experiences, and qualities, and how that matches with B, what specific programs that the college has to offer you. Now that we've talked about what you should focus on, let's talk for a moment about what you want to avoid. Now, any factor that's fairly universal among all the top colleges in the US would not be a very strong distinguishing detail. So, for example, I would not recommend saying that you want to go to XYZ College because they let you double major or they let you take courses outside of your major or across a broad spectrum of different fields, or that you would be allowed to have an interdisciplinary focus, for example. And the reason is simply that that would be true at pretty much any four-year university in modern times. So it just wouldn't be considered a distinctive factor to write about. Now, to give you a concrete example of what would be very unique, we have a short answer written by Celeste Tang on a major that is only offered at Tufts University called International Literary and Visual Studies. And at this point, I would invite you to pause our video for a second and read through her short answer. So if you're back with us, you'll notice that Celeste wrote about very specific and unique details to show why this particular major would be a perfect fit for her. And she did that rather successfully. And of course, her short answer is inherently going to stand out a little bit simply because she's chosen a topic that is unique to that school. Understandably, it won't always be possible. You may be interested in majoring in business or psychology or English. And obviously, these are majors that are offered by many, many top schools. In that case, the idea is that you want to write about as specific as possible about the programs or the professors that you're going to work with at that school. And that is how you will still, nevertheless, distinguish your short answer, even though you might be majoring in a common field. So, Next, what else should we avoid talking about? Students are often very drawn to discussing the college's sports team, the college's size, its location, possibly in a vibrant urban setting like New York or Philadelphia, or in a college town. Students are often right about the college's reputation, the weather, where the college is located. However, the problem with all of these details is that they tend to be way too common and also very impersonal. They don't tell the college anything about you or your talents, your personality, and very insightful prompt to read is an old question that Emory used to ask on its application. And it goes, many students decide to apply to Emory based on our size, location, reputation, and yes, the weather. But besides these valid reasons for choosing a college, why is Emory a particularly good match for you? And so you see in asking that prompt, what the school is trying to say is, we do understand that all these factors uh, validly influence a student's decision to pick a certain college, but those are not the factors that we want to hear about. We want to hear about more unique information, information that will help us get to know you as a person. So, moving on, one thing to remember as you write the Why College statement is that it is still a college admissions essay. So you want to make sure that you showcase your talents and passions, write about your strengths, and make sure that you don't repeat what's already been stated in your personal statement or in any other sections of your application. This is a chance for you to tell the college something new and interesting about yourself, and while still, of course, connecting it to a reason as to why you want to attend that particular college. Let a college know if they are your first choice. Colleges like to hear that. We know that there's a reason it's considered that students have a slight advantage when they apply early decision. And the reason is that colleges like to have very high acceptance rate. It tends to boost their rankings. And also, colleges, the bottom line is the admissions officers like to know that their school is such a good fit for you that you would definitely go there if they were to extend you an offer of acceptance. Now, on that same note, if you have a personal connection with the school, a family member who's graduated, or you visited the campus and spoken to students, then by all means make sure that you incorporate those details. Colleges do like to know that you have some personal connection to the campus. If you've been there physically for a visit, it does tend to show them that you're very serious about the school, especially if you had to travel far to visit the campus. And at this point, I'd like to invite you to pause the video for a minute and read about Jeremy's short answer, which makes it very clear that he immersed himself very much in the Tufts student environment and got to know some of the students and the uniqueness of the school. And that really comes across in his writing. So, finally, how do you tell if you've succeeded at writing a good Why College statement when you finished your first draft? What I like to do is say, give it the uniqueness test. And what that means is if you've done a really good job being specific, you cannot just replace every single time you mention that college's name with another college's name and then send the same essay on. If that is possible, then that means we have not gone specifically enough and that we need to revise our essay. On a similar note, is any one sentence you wrote something that you can imagine another student would have written word for word? If the answer is yes, then again, we need to revise. We need to brainstorm and research to figure out a way to be more specific. And at this point, I would invite you to pause the video one last time to read the short answer on why Barnard. Now, if you've come back from reading the why Barnard short answer, you'll probably see that the answer to the uniqueness test is definitely a resounding yes. And the reason is that the student talks about having grown up in a half French and half Chinese household. And on top of that, her own parents not only having grown up in France and then China on her mother's side, but also having lived in the Congo and then in Nigeria. So these are all very unique elements, and it shows that this student has been raised in a very diverse environment with a lot of different cultural perspectives. And most importantly, it's the kind of short answer that no other student probably would have written. And that in and of itself is going to make it very strong. So hopefully all of these tips will have given you some inspiration for how you can construct a very strong and unique why college essay that stands out. And next time we'll be talking about college interviews.